Good morning, Mr. Tefa and trainees as well. Good morning to you all. It's a beautiful
Yes,
Saturday, and I am happy to be back here with you, as I'm sure Mr. Tefa is as well. My name is Adewale Olashokwan, reaching you live from Three Piece Media Studio in Abuja. So, thank you all for being a part of this training once again. I must appreciate your commitment so far and your dedication to this training. It says a lot about how enthusiastic you are to getting this training. So I think we have a couple of people joining us already. Briggs, Janet, Comfort, Woku, Samuel, Uchewaji, Idara, Edidiong, Atetan. Good morning to you all, and I hope you are having a great Saturday. What better to do than a Saturday than to start a class with Mr. Tefa? Always the best thing to do.
thank you.
A couple of information before I usher in Mr. Tefa to take us the usual class. Thank you all for being a part of this conversation once again. And secondly, I must remind you that there's going to be an attendance on the comment section. The comment section is going to be a pinned comment where you can go there to register and to show that you are a part of this meeting. Then, secondly, the HR spoke with us 2 days ago. That was on Thursday, and he gave some very vital information about what we need to do about the contest that is coming, the importance of the attendance, and also to give information about the people that have complaints about whether or not they've received the handbills that was sent to their respective states. So I hope that is being resolved, and I hope you are using the right channel to communicate whatever problem you encounter along the way. And perhaps lastly, you should also do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. We run to online TV concurrently. We have Afro Connect TV and we have Ecstasy TV. You can search that on all your social media platforms, which is uh, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and some other platforms that you can get them. So, what you have to do is to follow them, like, engage in content that we are dishing out every day for you, for your consumption, if I could say that. Uh, so please do well to follow us on all our social media platform and engage with what we do there. It's all, I mean, the essence of you joining us is to participate and see how you can contribute to our programs that we are doing for now and the ones that we are going to bring forth in the coming weeks and months. So I was waiting that we have at least 20 people in the room before we continue. So I think we have 21 right now, if the numbers serves us right. So I would like to usher in Mr. Tefa to also join the conversation this morning while he takes us through his fantastic lecture. So please, if you're not with your pen and paper or with whatever writing materials that you used to write, I also have my phone with me, always writing down what Mr. Tefa is saying because there's always something to learn and it's always something to improve on. So good morning, Mr. Tefa, and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Adewale. Nice to meet you again. Um, Good morning, trainees. Welcome to another session of the ongoing training. Like I posted on the WhatsApp platform, WhatsApp group, today we'll be looking at how television, uh, how to conduct television interview, TV interview, how should it be conducted? That is what we'll be focusing on today's session. Interview as it is intended to elicit responses from interviewee. The person who interviews someone is the interviewer, and the person that is being interviewed is the interviewee. So if the interviewer has a team, they can become a panel of interviewers interviewing one or two interviewees, as the case may be. Um, Interviews are very essential in journalism because a reporter is supposed to write based on what happens, based on the events that occurs, based on people's perception or opinion. The reporter is not supposed to induce his or her opinion in the report that is being given. And before that should be done effectively, before a comprehensive and effective report should be written, news report should be written, the reporter might have conducted a thorough interview because there are many events that can be believable when people hear or see others speak about such event other than the reporter who reports the event. So interviews are very important to maintain credibility, authenticity, and reliability of the media organization. I was able to do, like, I am a teacher, precisely a lecturer. So I believe in using instructional materials to facilitate or enhance teaching. Instructional materials help to make teaching more comprehensive, more understandable. So I have drafted some instructional materials today as well, which after this session, it will still be posted on the WhatsApp group for trainees to follow and be able to do subsequent productions effectively and get used to the format or method of interviewing a guest. There are three types of, basically, three types of interview for the sake of this training, because all the interviews have been able to put in place the interviews that would help in three-piece media. These are the basic types of interview. No matter how other interviews are being done, they still fall under this. They have live studio interviews, recorded studio interviews, location interviews. Live studio interview. These are interviews that are done live in the studio. The transmission is done live as the guest or the interviewer, the interviewee is the interviewer is in the studio, the interviewee is in the studio. As the interaction is going on, the questions are being asked, the transmission is being done immediately. So there is no delay. Even if there is a delay, it's just a slight delay in the transmission, but it is transmitting what is happening live in the studio. So the interviewer must be very, very careful in presentation, because a live interview does not give room for making certain amends. There are certain errors that, when done on live interview, it cannot be corrected because it is already being transmitted. The viewers are already watching what is going on. So it will be difficult to make any adjustment or correction or edit anything because it is going on live. So in a live studio interview, the presenter must be well prepared so that blunders would not be committed on air while the live transmission of the interview is ongoing. The recorded studio interview is an interview that is done in the studio, but the difference between live studio interview, and recorded studio interview is that the recorded studio interview is being recorded to be transmitted later. So it can be edited. If there are any errors made, it can be edited. Or if the recorded interview is not done appropriately, it can also be the interview can still be done afresh. So it gives room, recorded interview gives room for correction, and it gives room for perfection. There are anything, if there are things that are not rightly done and pointed out, they can be corrected. That is the difference between recorded and live studio interview, because in the live, any error you make goes on air. Any defamatory statement that is made is being viewed or heard by the audiences. Maybe after that, apologies will be given and retraction letters or statement will be made. But the defamatory statement is already on air because it doesn't give room to remove that. It can only be stopped to be done further in the course of the live transmission. But in recorded studio interviews, if there are any defamatory statements that are made, it gives room for such to be edited and removed, or the interviewee to be instructed on what to do and not to repeat such in the next recording that will be done. So it gives room for correction to be transmitted later. Location interview is the interview that is not done in the studio. The interview is done in any location. It can be at home, it can be in the office, it can be on the road, in the market, or anywhere, because any place is a location. If you decide to do the interview that is in an aircraft, you decide to do it in the office, in the market square, is still a location. So location in this concept means anywhere that is outside the studio is a location. So location interviews are done anywhere. A reporter can go on field to conduct interviews and interview people in the market, interview buyers and sellers, interview people in the Ministry of Education, interview people at the funeral event or marriage event, as the case may be, and be able to get news stories from such interviews and put together to make a story for the bulletin. So there are many types of interview, no matter how you want to interpret them, one-on-one interview, panel interview, and the rest. They still fall under these three, because if it's a panel interview, it can be done in the studio as well, or it can be a particular location can be chosen for the interview to be done. So panel interview is done in the studio. So if it is interpretive, it is hard news interview, it can also be done in the studio or on location. So all other interviews, no matter how you want to categorize them, must fall within these three types of interview, television interview. The next one we'll be looking at is the five W's and H. You know, when you talk about news in an interview, it is expected that these should reflect, have the five W's and H: who, what, when, where, why, how. It is not that all these must be used in an interview. The interview that will contain all five W and then the answers that may be given, that might be given by the interviewee or the guest, as the case may be. So this must be taken note. This must be taken note in conducting your interview. The five W's and H are very essential in news gathering, writing, and reporting because they help the reporter to get or to elicit accurate information. We, they are able to give you what they see in any event. For instance, if an accident, you get a report saying you weren't there when the accident occurred, you need to ask questions like when did the accident, how did it happen, all these things, why did it happen? These are questions that are very important. Questions like these help to enable others to take correct a driver's carelessness. Maybe the person was making a call. An eyewitness saw the driver making a call and was not concentrating on the road and had a kind of distraction that led to the accident. So by putting that, what caused the accident? It was the call the driver was actually making. How did the accident happen? The car left the road or swingled and somersaulted 4 or 5 times, and that was how it happened. So the information like this would help the reporter to write a comprehensive story that would give the comprehensive information of how the accident happened so that others will also learn. And then for those who have people that might, those that may have people that were on that kind of a journey would also try to look out for their loved ones because finding out this information and putting it on the media would enable others to look for their loved ones. Say, okay, my brother was traveling today or traveled today or was on the way and this accident happened at this time, this place. So let me check out. So such information would help you to look out for them, your people who might have been on the journey to check out for their safety. So it is important for the five W and H to be taken cognizance of in your interviews so that it will be so that you will be able to get comprehensive or elicit comprehensive information. In a panel, this is a panel interview, a panel interview in the studio. This is how a panel interview looks like. You see the two interviewers are there and the interviewee is there. So a panel interview is a type of interview that has two or more interviewees, two or more interviewers rather, two or more interviewers that interviews an interviewee. So the interviewers ask questions. One will be asked by the other, and maybe a follow-up question will be asked by the other viewers, interviewing a guest in the studio. If you have been following a lot of television and news programs, you see that happening in a panel interview. So that can happen in the studio, like we said, it can be recorded or it can be live. Then it can even be off studio. There can be a location where such interviews can take place. Not all interview of that nature must be in the studio. Can have a setting elsewhere and do such an interview. So that is panel interview. So whenever you see uh, two or more presenters or reporters or interviewers, you should know that it's a panel interview where the guest is there faced by the interviewers that ask the guest questions on various issues or a particular subject matter with many questions to be answered. Now, in an interview, it is not all interviews that the reporter must appear in the visual or in the recording. Some interview, the subject or the personality or the interviewee is being seen talking, while the interviewer voice is being heard, but it is not, the person is not seen. So the question will come and the interviewer will answer or will make comment. The viewers won't hear the sound of the interviewer, but the interviewee will be seen. So there are situations where interviews can be done like that. So depending on how a particular media organization may want a certain interview to be done, or depends on the reporter's preferred style. So this is an interview where the interviewee only appears there. So as you see, the interviewee will be answering questions being asked by the interviewer that is not captured, that is not captured by the camera. Because if you follow football matches or other interviews, by the end of a particular match, maybe the best player or the player of the man of the match is being interviewed. Sometimes you hear the interviewer talking, and then you see the interviewee answering questions without actually seeing the interviewer. So this can also be taken note of. And then we have interview with the interviewer appearing. So this is an image where the interviewer is there and you see the interviewee there. So the camera is the camera has captured the two, the interviewer and the interviewee. See the microphone at the reach of the interviewer, of the interviewee rather. So the interviewer holds the microphone and the interviewee is there being asked questions. So this is what actually happens when an interviewer appears with the interviewee in a given shot. So this type of interview too is also used. So you can use the one where a reporter or the interviewer appears with the interviewee, or the one where the interviewer doesn't appear, only the interviewee, but the voice is being heard. I posted a short interview uh, I did in the RAM office, that featured the coordinator, project coordinator of Rural Access and Agricultural Marketing Project RAM in Benue State. I didn't appear in the interview, but my voice was heard. So I interviewed Mr. Steven Sifa Numbeve, who is the project coordinator of RAMP in Benue State, and he spoke about the intention or the mandate of RAMP and the impact made so far. So I dropped the link to that on the WhatsApp group so that it can be assessed and seen how some of these activities can be carried out, including the compressor that I use and the editing softwares that I use to do that and to write on video, that is text on video applications. Now, there are types of news gathering and reporting. No matter how you classify them, they will still fall under the tree that I mentioned. For the sake of this training, it is important that this should be understood. In the interviews that you will be conducting, these are types of interview for news gathering and reporting. You have hard news interview, personal interview, entertainment interview, actuality interview. You have emotional interview, remote interview, vox pop interview, and grabbed interview. The reason these interviews are very necessary is because you will be required by Treatise Media to be conducting interviews. Apart from going to cover an event, even when you cover an event, it is required that at the end of that event, you interview certain dignitaries, certain personalities about the event and the organizers of the event, what the event is intended to, the impact the event is intended to make, maybe the challenges in the organizing of the event, and how to encourage those who may be aspiring to be organizers of such event. So you need to ask questions before you'll be able to get answers in with regard to this. So when you look at this component, to see this type of interview, hard news interview is the type of interview that contains mostly the five W's and H. It's an interview that is straight to the point, focused to elicit answers from the interviewees. There may be one or two interviewee or interviewees. So you need to ask straightforward questions. And such questions should, uh, they are not mostly open, they're not mostly close-ended questions. They are open-ended. You know, when you ask a close-ended question, you ask like, have you eaten? Yes, I have. Those are open, close-ended questions. Questions that require yes or no answer are close-ended. So in interview, it's not appropriate to ask questions that will give you yes or no answer. You should ask questions that will be of what, who, where, when, how. That is, those are the type of questions that will require an interviewee to talk. Those are because we're asking yes or no. We ask, have you been to this place? Yes. Did you go to this place? No. This and that. Yeah. So those are close-ended. So it's not appropriate to be asking such questions. You should ask, how have you managed to do this? Over the years you have spent, what achievements have you obtained? So you need to ask questions that will require the interviewee to talk, to give you in-depth, comprehensive answers, and not close-ended questions that will give you a yes or no. And then the personal interview talks about personality interview, because in the course of doing and conducting interviews, you will be meeting personalities whose lifestyle may be of inspiration to others. So when you meet a particular personality, you ask the person questions like the person's background, the person's achievement, the person's aspirations, or the person's hobby, or how did the person, what steps or measures did the person take to reach the heights they are today. So you ask such questions because personal interviews are mostly done on personalities, people of pedigree, people that have what can be learned, people who are role models, maybe a sport person, an actor, a musician, a scholar. So you can decide to do that. Some persons will be saying, we don't have news to cover. In fact, every day there are news stories. Enough of that. So you can't say there are no news stories. So you can meet any personality, communicate to the person, sir, man, I want to conduct a personality interview with you, a personal interview with you, and you schedule a time. The person will give you a time when you can meet, and the interview can be conducted, and the location for the interview, so that you can be able to bring that. People learn from personal interviews, the experiences others went through in life, the challenges they face, and how they were able to surmount those challenges. So to surmount those challenges would encourage others who will watch such personality interview and learn from their role models. So these interviews are very important to be conducted. Then you have we have entertainment interview. Entertainment interview here deals with the kind of interview that is intended to entertain the audiences. Maybe you are entertaining a comedian. I mean, you are interviewing a comedian, an actor, someone who is in the entertainment industry on questions that are light. You use light questions that will elicit funny answers that will make people to actually be entertained, or you ask questions we that relates to the entertainment industry so that people will be entertained. So that is called entertainment interview. It is intended to entertain the audiences, though it may not have much of certain things to be obtained educationally, but it will be there to entertain, maybe to make people to laugh, and also keep them going in their aspiration to be entertainers. So entertainment interview is there. Then actuality interview is the type of interview that is done where the the interviewee voice is being heard, but not the interviewer. By the time the final production is being made, that is during the production, the the interviewer will ask the interviewee questions. But most of these type of actuality interview is mostly done in the recorded aspect. It is recorded because by the time it is being edited, it the portions or the places where the interviewer asked questions will be removed. So you only hear the interviewee answering questions, but you won't hear or see the interviewer asking those questions. So there are a lot of interviews like that, but this type of interviews are mostly found in documentary or future report or story. And emotional interview. Emotional interview. What is emotional interview? Emotional interview bring out emotions because you have people who might have experienced certain things in life. They might have felt uh, have certain effects. Maybe someone has gone through certain trauma, certain health challenge, or someone had an accident that led to one of the hands to be amputated, or the leg, or the person got blind, and then you are interviewing the person. So emotional interviews are interviews where you ask questions of emotions. So such questions may help to get support, because if someone had an accident and is in the hospital, and you interview the person and the person talks about the challenges that the accident happened this, and the doctor said I need 6 million or 7 million for the operation, that so it can make people who are willing to help. It can move the public to see if they can do a fundraising, or an individual can decide to take care of the hospital bills and other charges that might be involved. So emotional interviews help to actually support the interviewee as well, especially if it is an extreme tragic situation. And a vox pop, uh, remote interview first. Remote interview is the type of interview that is done remotely. You know, if the guest is not within, the guest is far away, the remote interview can be done either on phone, or you can use any other device. The person can be elsewhere, but they can be interviewed remotely. They will not be within the vicinity or the premises where the interview is being done, but the person will be interviewed from the place where they may be. So that is remote interview that is being done, because certain personalities may not be able to come to the studio to be interviewed in the studio. So they can be interviewed remotely, as we do see on the various television stations where interviews are done remotely, as the guest or the interviewee will be speaking from office, from home, or from Lagos, communicating to Abuja studio, as it has been on various television channels. So those are remote interviews. And then you have a vox pop. Vox pop interview is a type of interview that is being done to get the public opinion, where the public is being interviewed randomly. You can decide to go to the market square because of the level of inflation in the market and select traders at random and interview, and then you select buyers at random and you interview. That is box pop. The intention is to get the public opinion about issues that affect them. So they will tell you, the traders will tell you what they go through to get the goods and why they are selling at the current price. The buyers will tell you what they go through to buy. They'll tell you this thing was sold 200 naira last week and this week it is 250 and all that. So from there, you'll be able to put a story that will pass a message to the government of what the people are facing. So Vox Pop interview brings a sample report of public opinion on various issues or specific issues that would be which the intention is to draw the attention of the government to do something to salvage the situation. Last but not the least, grabbed interview, as it is here, grabbed interview, grabbed interview, grabbed interview. It's a grabbed interview is like an ambush interview. Uh, Maybe a meeting was held at the presidential villa or held at the International Conference Center, and certain dignitaries came out of the meeting and trying to get into their respective cars. So, grabbed interviews when journalists will rush, reporters will rush to the guest or the personalities and start asking them questions about certain events or about the meeting, how the meeting went, and about other situations regarding the meeting. And what normally happens is that in such scenario, they may not make any comment. At times, you see reporters rushing to interview certain guests after a particular conference or meeting, and the person will not say anything and will just walk into their cars and move. So some will just tell you no comment. Some will just tell you they are not in the position to speak on the meeting that was heard. So that is how a grabbed interview is being carried out. I have been able to explain these types of news gathering and reporting that I have given here. I'm going to drop this on the WhatsApp group so that everybody would be able to go through and use for subsequent production. Now, appearing on television for news or appearing on television for interviews requires the interviewer to be well composed. After knowing these types of interviews and what they mean, the interviewer must be composed. There are certain things that should be done and should not be done while conducting interview, be it studio interview or location interview. There are certain things that must not be done. Uh, the interviewers must not wear too much makeup. And there are certain makeups that once you do that, it becomes too destructive, and it affects the presentation. So reporters or newscasters must ensure that the their makeup are not done in such a way that would result to distraction. And then the hairstyle, there are certain hairstyle that are not appropriate to be kept while conducting certain interviews because it won't speak well of the media organization, such as maybe coloring your hair. You dye your hair, you color your hair, then you want to appear in an interview. Except if there are exceptional cases of creativity. Maybe the interview is about promoting art, creativity, and culture, or certain things that may require that to be done specifically for that program. Maybe it may be a carnival, and then you have to do that to show the creativity in the industry. So there are exceptional cases where such may be accepted, but not on official basis, where you are appearing to conduct an interview on sensitive issues other than entertainment. So you don't have to dye or color your hair. Your makeup should be moderate, and then you shouldn't for ladies you don't have to dress to expose your breast, and then not putting too many earrings. People put 4 5 earrings on their earlobe, so it's not appropriate for that to happen when you are appearing to interview anybody, be it in the studio or location. Then the nature of attire worn during such interviewers are not supposed to wear all black, all white, or red. At least they should be colors that will be camera friendly. It is not acceptable to wear all red, all black, or white. You can mix certain colors with that will be appealing to the camera and to the news production. So that should also be taken note of. And interviewers should be people who are composed. You must be composed in asking your questions. You should ensure that you ask questions that are open-ended. You can ask close-ended questions in some instances, but most of the questions should be open-ended questions so that the interviewer would be able to give you adequate information. And then the interviewer should also be fluent in asking the questions. The interviewer should be extremely fluent, should have a good command of English or the language of interview. Maybe some interview might be conducted in other dialects, in languages other than English. So whatever language of interview that will be conducted, the interviewer must be fluent at that, so that you'll be able to elicit appropriate responses from the interviewee. And the interviewer should not get angry unnecessarily. In fact, should not even get angry at all during interview. No matter the behavior of the interviewee, you have to be able to contain the person. So you should not become aggressive during interview. It won't speak well of the media organization. It will send a bad message that Three-Piece Media employs journalists who are hot-tempered, and that would not be good to give the Trippies Media a bad name. So it's not right for reporters, interviewers to have a hot temper, to be hot tempered. So you need to control your anger. Even when interviewees provoke you, you just have to manage that and control yourself and keep the interview going. And then the interviewer must at all times ensure that you are focused on the interviewee. The interviewer should not be distracted. When you are conducting an interview, you shouldn't be looking elsewhere unnecessarily. You should be focused on the interviewee and what the interviewee is saying. You should pay absolute attention so that you won't be asking the interviewee the same question over and over. Just imagine you ask an interviewee a question, after answering, you still say, I beg your pardon, and you still ask the question again, I didn't get you clear. What's some interviewee will get angry and then will feel that you don't actually know what you are doing, because you're supposed to be attentive to the answers given. So you have to pay absolute attention during interviews, be it studio or location interview, so that you won't be distracted, so that you will be able to get the necessary information. And then if there is any need for follow-up question, so that you can ask. Certain questions may not be intended to ask, but once an interviewee gives an answer that gives room for an answer that gives room for a follow-up question, then you should be able to ask a follow-up question, which will help in the course of the interview. So it is very, very important that interviewers should take this into consideration, because without a good interview, you will not be able to get the needed information. the public is there and the media is standing between the public and the government, between the public and influencers. So the media is there to serve as a voice of the public. That is the reason the media plays a very critical role in development, because most things wouldn't have been attended to by the government if not because of the media. The media has done so much. The media have done so much by conducting series of interviews on issues of development, issues of social life that prompted the government to act, and it led to certain improvement or change in policy positively that the impact is being felt in various sectors. So the media is very, very critical in nation building. And this can only be possible if journalists, reporters do their work effectively by ensuring that they represent uh, the media organization well, by living according to the tenet of journalism, by upholding the media code of ethics, and abiding by the media law as we have treated in previous session. So I will post this instructional material on the WhatsApp group so that you will follow and learn more from that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Tefa. I mean,
Thank
just
you.
like I said before we commence, the class commence, that it's always important that they get their notes ready, because there's always a lot
Yes,
of things to learn and see from your presentation. So thank you very much for that. Of course,
thank you.
there's a lot of things to pick out of it. As much as our appearance is important in presentation, there are some things we also need to put in order, such as the questions that we ask interviewee. So I'm sure a lot of things has been learned, and a lot of attention has been paid to your class. So thank you so much for that presentation. Before we go directly into the question and answer session, please do well to follow us on all our social media platforms. This was an information that I gave earlier. I believe perhaps there's some people that joined after my introduction. I mentioned that it is important to I'm pinning this comment now on the screen. Ensure that you fill your attendance form uh, as necessary before the end of the class. It's also important that you ask your questions, ask specific questions that will be tailored to your need in the field. And also remember to follow us on all our social media platforms where you can engage with our posts as we drop them. So now is the session for question and answer. Please ensure that you drop your question as early as possible so that we can allow Mr. Tefa to go ahead with other engagement for today, and also for you to enjoy your weekend. So if there are any questions, please do so to drop them in the group. Well, let me start with this first. It said this is from Samuel. He said, I must say that Mr. Tefa is good at drawing. I was going to say that too. The illustrations has been quite apt so far. Yes, a lot of
Thank
commendation.
you, Samuel.
Thank you, sir. Uh, okay, I'm going to start this question from Mohammed Sani. Said, please, how many Vox Pop contain a segment of interviews? Can we ask as many as possible?
Okay, thank you, Sunny. Um, this is a very lovely question. You know, the Vox Pop doesn't require too many segments of the interview. For instance, if you are conducting an interview on the impact of the inflation on low income household, the impact of inflation. Your report is the impact of this inflation on low income household. So in doing the box pop, you know that the low income, who are the low income people? You know, people who salaries are very low, who cannot actually get their basic necessities, basic things they need. So you interview them, and in doing such interview, it will be important for that to be balanced. You can select from that, you can select a male, a female, or two males, two females, as the case may be. It will be good to have it balanced. Then you interview low class, because once you go to the market to do a market survey or an interview of that nature, you know where buyers who are low class people go to buy things. You know, rich people normally have their way of buying things. So you can do a box pop by selecting three persons from the other side, three traders, and maybe three buyers, making six. You know, a box pop interview is very short. It's not something that within 1 minute you can do two box pop in 1 minute. Just few seconds. You can just ask a few questions and you can get answers. So you must not interview 100 persons or 50 persons in a box pop. Two or three is okay, because it actually shows what is going on, because by then the reporter might have already given the story, and then giving the box pop is to support what the reporter found out. So that is just what is there.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you
Yes.
very well now.
Oh, okay. I think the network was affecting for some moment. Said, can you? This question is from Rita. Can you give us an example of questions that are too sensitive to ask during an interview?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, the network is a little bit delayed.
Okay, thank you for the question, Rita. Um, Sensitive questions to be asked during an interview depends on the type of interview. What type of interview are you conducting? What type of question will make it sensitive? You know, there are certain questions that you don't ask. Just like you have stated, there are certain questions that you don't ask during an interview because they may bring violence, they may bring certain questions are not necessary to be asked depending on the background information you have obtained. That is the reason before reporters go on field or interviewers go on field, they must also have a background they are going to interview. This subject matter, how do people react generally? Is it a religious issue? What questions should be asked when it comes to religion? We have Christianity, we have Islam. So what questions that will ask in Islam that will bring violence? What questions that will be asked in Christianity that will bring violence? So there are certain questions that should not be asked. I remember very well I think it was in whether in 2002 or six, I've forgotten the year precisely, when the Miss World was supposed to be held in Nigeria. What is Daniel's Isomia or Isoma, the name like that, did a report where she talked about a Prophet Muhammad, and that led the cancellation of the Miss World because she misunderstood that. And then I think it was This Day newspaper. So she was supposed to have known the complexity in religion. What do Muslims like to be said on air, and what is it that they don't want? So you need to know, so that when you are asking questions, you should know the sensitivity of the question. The sensitivity of the question depends on various aspects. You may not just know that this question is too sensitive. It depends on the prevailing factor, or the condition on ground, or religious issues that may be involved, or health issues, or matter of national security. So once you do that, maybe you are asking questions about terrorism, issues about terrorism. Anyhow, you have to be careful, because it can create a problem that will be blown out of proportion. So it is important that reporters should be cognizant of whatever aspect they are conducting the report, so that they don't blow things out of proportion.
All right. Thank you for that response, Mr. Tefa. Now, another question from Christopher. So thank you, Mr. Tefa. You talked about manner of dressing or dress code in television presentation, but how about radio presenters? Because I've seen some of them tinting and even pleating their hair. I'm sure the answer to that will be short. Did you get the question, Mr. Tefa?
Okay. Yes, I've seen the question. Thank you for the question, Christopher. I've seen the question. Yes. You see, the issue of television is different from that of radio, because radio presenters don't they are not seen on air. Their voices are only heard on air. So how they appear may not actually be much of a problem to the listener. Just that maybe when they go out, somebody will see them and say, this is a presenter. This is the presenter on Harvest FM or Highland FM or Radio Benway, as the case may be. So their presentation does not actually have much to do with their dressing, because the on-air presence of TV is more powerful, because the viewers see you as you appear. So the way they see you is how they look at the station you are representing. Then on radio, the way your voice is being heard is how they feel the station is being represented. Because if you speak fluently, eloquently, you talk very well on radio, it will represent the radio station very well. So in that aspect of radio broadcasting or presentation, dressing may not, how the presenter appears may not actually be an issue, since the listener are not seeing the presenter and what the presenter does in the studio. So such issues may be different, or are different from that of television.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Tefa. And this next question is from Atatan. It said, hard news interview is open ended, where all the five W's and H are used. Is hard news also breaking news?
All right, thank you very much. Uh, Hard news, breaking news is an event that has just happened. That is breaking news, a recent occurrence, and it is an event of importance. A lot of events happen, but the media don't bring them as breaking news because various events happen. So breaking news would look at the personality involved. Who are those involved that will make it breaking news? Because people die every day. People are being born every day. People get promotion every day. People retire every day. And people get fired every day. But why is this person's retirement a breaking news? Why is this person's promotion a breaking news? Why is this person's having an accident a breaking news? Or why is this person's attack a breaking news? Maybe you can say breaking news, Gome attack a prominent Nigerian. So the breaking news will contain the gunmen. Who are they? They came in black. What time did they come to attack? Where did they attack? So hard news interview open-ended can happen in breaking news because there are questions that will be asked like that. When did this happen? How did it happen? Who are those involved? Why did it happen? Why was the person attacked? How did the attack happen? Who was attacked? So it still reflects the 5W and H in breaking news.
Well, thank you for that response, Mr. Tefa. I believe we've run out of questions for now, but I must also address some concerns as been stated in the group. I have this concern from Ejuga Francis and also Mohammed Sani. Both of you complained that you haven't received the flyers yet. I apologize for that, and I must also say that just as the HR have stated that the time he spoke with us last week, I mean this week, the last time he mentioned that work is being done in that regard. So I would encourage you to exercise more patience and use the platform, the WhatsApp group, reach out to the admins out there, or through your email to send whatever questions you have or concerns that you might be experiencing. So that is being worked on for Mohammed and for Mohammed Sani and Francis Ejoga. So that has been worked on. Then for another person, we say Angela. Apologize if I murder your name. You mentioned about the concern you have on identification, a means of identification as a barrier, not having that as a barrier to getting interview granted. I believe that is also going to be addressed so that you can have a means of identification as a press um, person, so it would aid your you in carrying out your assignment as and when due. So I think that is that. If you have any other thing that you want to add to this, Mr. Tefa, before we call it a day.
Okay. Thank you, Adewale. Um, so far as we have gone, it is expected that trainees should keep practicing. Media is about practice. It's not all about theory. The theory is to help journalists to put to practice what they have learned theoretically. So whatever you're learning, you can, even without giving an assignment, you can take your mobile device, go out and do some kind of personal practical work, conduct interviews, come back, try to edit, play them, and see so that you get used to that. By the time the training is completed, you will be equipped to go out and conduct interviews professionally. Thank you.
All right. Lastly, Mr. Tefa, I'd like you to respond to this question from Comfort. It said, can we send a documentary video for our assignment?
Okay, comfort. All right, comfort. Uh, Thank you very much. Um, you can send documentary videos. It's part of the production because apart from news reports, documentary videos also documentary about erosion in a particular area, or documentary about the establishment of an institution, documentary about the talent development of a particular person. So documentaries are newsworthy too. They help to get a news story from that happening from one stage to the other. So documentaries can open room for that. So documentary production can also be submitted. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
All right, thank you for that swift response. I believe we've now come to the end of the training for today. As we've all seen, Mr. Tefa is always coming with his always armed with his illustrations and with his drawing, if I could call them that, and always fantastic and always watching out to see what he creates next time. Thank you so much, Mr. Tefa. It's been wonderful so far, and thank you to all our correspondents and our reporters as well. We do appreciate your time and the effort you're putting into uh, learning, so that you will mean putting the lessons into practice once you get to the field. I believe this is where we draw it to a close. Do well to follow us on our social media platforms and fill the attendance form for today. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Tefa. We can't wait to have you next week.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye.
Mm. Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
Yeah.